Well, today at Solus Partners, we're really excited to have on Albert from Mindsight Ventures. Albert, could you tell us a little bit about what led up to your journey to Mindsight and then just the team and kind of just the journey in a nutshell?
Totally, and thanks for inviting me. So I'm always kind of a kind of a like super curious guy. I have a tech background. I studied computer science, but then I have a master in business administration, right? To get to explore kind of the world. I've been playing around and being involved in many technologies. Once like security, just out of my I graduate, but then I went to blockchain, also big data at the time, and even I wrote a book about big data for executives. Then data scientists at that time where was not super hype as it is right now. I moved into, as I said, like blockchain and all the decentralized identity. Then even I get into quantum computing. We can talk about that because it's a fascinating world. But then because there was the hype, right, of with all the ChatGPT moment in the 2023s. So basically, because I come from this background, I was about to say like, hey, what's going on now with AI, right? At that moment, I was an advisor of a venture builder in Barcelona, in Spain, called Farsight, and they had like 20 companies, and they guide them and they nurture, right? There were several sectors, and we noticed that okay, what they are lacking is kind of this sense of how AI can foster them and making them kind of grow via AI. And because at that moment it was getting the traction and the hype, everyone or everywhere in the world, right, about AI was okay, let's build a company that can at the very beginning help the other startups in a like a cross domain, and then let's see if with that if we can build actually like a company in itself to kind of get a product to the market via AI. Kind of this was the very beginning of Mindsight to basically to help on foster. And there was like one particular example and was a computer vision company with ultrasound images, like for medical sector. So we already had one company in which we wanted to start our journey, let's say. But at that moment, as you can imagine, because I'm super bullish on Asian, and we can talk about that a lot. Basically, I wanted to, okay, let's spread how this AI via agents, we can help because you can imagine in a startup, everything needs to be done. And you need like people to be super skillful in a lot of the skills. It's like, okay, how can AI also help on those companies to scale also that, right? So the kind of, was the very beginning. And then that's why we said, okay, let's create a Mindset Ventures also as a kind of a seed for even new products that can come out of the market. And actually, we can talk also about that because it's not also like a company that build and have its own product, but actually helps to develop other startups, other company based on the work that we currently.
Very cool. It sounds like then you guys have kind of from the early seeds of new ideas, you guys really foster a lot of different innovation. Is there a specific theme or industry or type of team that you guys like to work with?
I mean, not necessarily based on our, as I said, our very beginning, right? So we have this medical device company. But we also have we work on trading, and we have a company that we just come out based on financial, and we how we can accelerate the algorithmic trading for helping traders. So what one common theme I would say is providing assistance to the people that are carrying out the jobs. And this is completely cross domain because we have also a company on hotel revenue manager. We have this financial trading. We have this assistant on medical. It's not actually assistant, but we can put this a theme basically because what we want is to solve kind of these complex problems to gain efficiency for them. So there's these senior guys inside, the company that they're doing that job, but there's like 60% of their job that can be automatized. And currently software is difficult to get this job done, but with AI and with agents that can be done. So kind of this is the theme in which we are working, I would say.
Makes a lot of sense. And imagine that while you guys work with a variety of industries and workflows, there's probably some common moments or work styles or needs that are pretty universal across industries and teams.
No, I mean totally. I would say managing data and who doesn't, right? So basically, we know and we experience ourselves like everyone wants to either gather some data and put some other data either internally to just digest and take better decisions and be informed, and everyone now work with the ChatGPT app, just to generate some documents. But the idea here is how we can connect your internal data to put you into a better position to take these decisions over. Or sometimes we just encounter that I have like 6 7 different applications that they need to share this data, and even though they're from the same suite, they do not take each other because you need kind of man in the middle. So this is particularly important in all those cases, how we can take some data and output some data. I don't know, like for instance, for this trading, how we can gather some data that you want, so you can express yourself in this natural language that now is so common, right? Everyone talks about natural language. So I can describe my need, you can gather that information, you can generate this case, this algorithmic trading, and then when I approve, you can execute that, and I can show the results. For that, usually it needed kind of 2 3 different people with different skill set, right? So kind of this is kind of again the common theme is like how we can work with these several types of data in which you as an expert can oversee that and take that decision. It can that's why I always talk about assistants. Like you have interns that if you treat them and explain the task to be done, they know how to do that. And then it's a continuous learning mechanism because you can set and you can express and make them evolve as you continuously work with them. And this is something that a common theme again that we say in every single project that we work with these companies, to say the more you use, more your agent, your product, your internal product will benefit from that because it's going to gather more and more knowledge. It's kind of by the sake of using that, the system gets better. So actually, it's kind of how we work with employees, right? You have a colleague, you just onboard them, that person, and then that person gets better and better because they acquire experience. Now, our challenge is how we can ensure that experience in every single of these products that we say. I'm not gonna lie, it's a challenge in itself to express this as so the companies that don't buy that by the sake of, oh, let's test AI, right? This is a challenge to also explain that very well, how they can incorporate that into their daily operation, let's say.
That makes a lot of sense. I could see that data augmentation layer of the man in the middle kind of agent application being really, really helpful for teams. If you're a prospective founder or someone that's in the AI space that's looking for something like that Mindsight offers, what will they be able to expect in terms of kind of onboarding? How does that engagement work? What should they know kind of off the cuff?
Yeah, so what we do, we work as a kind of as a consultancy at the very beginning, right? We say, what is you actually? We want to understand what is you actually paid, because basically it's like we can help you. The typical use cases is, hey, we want to engage with customers better, right? Because I don't want to hire like a set of teams, mainly because one of the pains that they describe is like the operations that require that they're not scalable, they're not attractive for me, or that they produce a lot of cost, right, associated to that. How can you help me on that? Basically, we want to get even better on that, because better meaning more into the deep root of the problem that is causing that. Is actually this is gonna drive your sales? Okay, then if you actually want to focus on that because you have your operation set up, okay, then let's gonna solve that. Basically, we have and we put into work a set of framework of agents that we put that into different levels. Right? We can work internally and we say, we can, as I said, we can connect some of your tools. Actually, we are deploying one of the projects is what we call a one-click deployment agents. So basically, sometimes they just want these simple workflows in operations, right? Like these automation workflows. I say, hey, I can provide you with a one-click deployment for your agent. So in a few minutes, you already have onboarded this agent, so you can already work with that. This kind of to, let's say, these quick wins in terms of they starting to see the benefit of that. Then we can get into what way I was calling to these kind of more in-depth pain. Basically, and this kind of more for more established companies or enterprises, and they already have set up many processes. And changing one of the process, it means it takes time, effort, and a lot of friction with several departments. And basically, here what we say is, okay, let's dig into what is actually helping you on solving and connecting the dots between this department and this other department, and I can provide you that without changing your current infrastructure, without changing your current operations, right, or your current systems. Because then basically when data flows between departments, then you can actually start thinking on more, let's say, more in-depth refactor of the whole infra. But for the one is as usual, right? Quick wins in the sense that to gain trust about what is the actual benefit of deploying agents in this era, right? They sometimes they expect, because they see a lot of news, they have a lot of hype on the benefit they can produce this new AI, and sometimes they shock with the reality when any of the managers they say, okay, this is not working because they got this answer wrong. So you need to educate also. That's why we start with this consultancy. Basically, we like being partner with our clients, being side by side, working with these projects, so that in some cases we can even build a product in the market and accompanying them to the market with this product.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like you guys take a very conscious and collaborative approach to any engagement or client that you're working with.
I mean, it's necessary because I mean, AI seems that can be so easy. Reality is another perspective. It's much difficult. So everyone is selling AI, right? And you as a manager, you have to decide: do I want to buy a product that it's $5 per month? Should I go to this? I don't know, like a super big firm that is costing me many months of working, or something in which there's a lot of confusion. Your manager doesn't know how to actually get engaged with this AI. That's why we want to build trust with these kind of quick wins at the very beginning, showing that, hey, we have already helped startups. We know how to put products and service to the market. We already, and we have worked with several industries. And then it's like, hey, we are here to help you. And, and sometimes like, if you want, like we make love about that. Because it's if you want like a GPT style, because sometimes there's a champion already inside that say, this can be done with already with ChatGPT, right? And this and that's a reality, right? It's not only a platform or a SDK or an API, the ChatGPT application style. They are building more and more value, so companies can already use that as one of the internal tools. For us, we need to exactly differentiate for what can be achieved by using this set of tools, because those already provide value. That's why we tackle challenging problems. We need to solve pain, because otherwise it just the new office suite, right? And this, we are not helping there. We are not providing value. We are not here to provide that. Actually, we can sometimes we say no to these projects. Just basically we would say, hey, you have already those tools. You need at least to understand how to use those, because actually otherwise you're not going to be able to use or to understand the power of what we are providing. So that one manager is going to say, hey, this is not helpful for me. And what we notice also is sometimes we provide kind of this so the UI is very important, and sometimes we have to mimic to the again ChatGPT style, right, with a chat as a method to interact. And what we notice is sometimes managers are not even used to understand how to interact with one of these AI models. And this is a problem, because then they expect the answer to act as a typical application. Let's say a dashboard, like you get the dashboard and that's all. It's a static dashboard. Usually when they ask about changes, usually they call IT department, hey, I need this change, or with any set of tools I can drag and drop, but maybe but it's already set. Now you can actually ask the agent, what dashboard do you want? So doing this kind of click is it's a mental approach to these new dynamic tools. They are not used sometimes to that. So that's why I say, hey, let's use what those tools are already providing to you, so you can understand the gap from what we can build with you. And again, this is kind of a approach that we are doing, and a relationship that takes time.
Sure.
So it's not as single as providing, yeah, like a product, or a easy to use tool, let's say.
That makes a lot of sense, and it makes sense that you need a strong relationship to get through kind of a tailored approach that you guys offer, which is obviously very different than what a standard GPT out of the box solution could provide.
Mm.
What
And sorry, and don't get I'm sorry, and don't get me wrong. So we wanted to sell kind of the out of the box product, to say, hey, this is the tool, but reality and the market is what we have, right? And this is what positioned us here, is like, hey, when what we can achieve, and what we notice that our value is actually kind of this position. We are small, but we can already provide value with these state of the art tools that we can use. And every 3 months, the set of tools that we can use, the internal team that needs to adapt to those and learn. So every single, I would say, like, project is not completely different, but we use a set of tools different. Right? This is the value that we can provide to the company. Sorry,
that
because I cut you.
Oh, no, you're fine. I think that's really helpful detail. And kind of continuing on the point, could you give myself and the audience a little bit more detail around kind of some key wins or case studies where you guys have helped transform the pain of clients, and in whether it be sales or operations or variety of angles?
Yeah. Let's talk to some of the examples. So in one of these cases, that the initial one that I was talking with on the medical sector. So basically, we built our own machine learning model to diagnose, and to classify ultrasound images. So basically, the state how your skin is, and basically what we just imagine, you go to a clinic because you have some reaction in your face, and usually what they do is the clinic, in a hospital. So basically, they have a specialized doctor. You take a ultrasound image, and usually, at least here in Spain, it takes 1 or 2 weeks to get the answer from a specialized doctor, right? What we have reduced is basically to reduce this kind of gap in 1, 2 weeks into a few minutes. So basically, via AI, via this model, via the application. So basically, you go to the clinic, you get the image, you upload that image, it gets the classification. So we already know the state, and then with our internal doctor, in this case, this for this company, so basically it validates and it signs that report, right? So the clinics, in a few minutes, they already have that. That KPI, I would say, is one of the most important, because you as a client, you are getting out of the clinic already with a diagnosis. And this is where AI makes completely sense. Why we need to wait, so many times. So kind of this is one of the benefits. And again, I'm saying here KPI of time, because this is, for me, I'm thinking, like, if you are a senior position because you are doing something that is very complex, you already have that experience. How can you separate what is taking you for providing more benefit? Again, for instance, and as a second example, for the hotel, they need to decide the best prices for each of the rooms, right? And there's the revenue manager position. I need to, digest a tons of information, and sometimes I need, there's something that is not already there, and I need to dig that. So basically, what we provide is this assistant. So basically, again, it's, hey, you can ask the data, you can get the answer that you want, and then you take the decision about the final price. We could be even farther about even getting the price out of that. But basically, what I was saying before is like, okay, let's take one step at a time. You, as a senior manager, you need to understand how to take profit of this set of tools, and decisions that, takes the whole day, or even you cannot take that decision because there's too many things to do. You know that you, at 9 a.m., when you get to the office, you get your daily report of the things that have happened in your hotel. Now you can take decisions. If there's something that is missing, just ask and you get it. So again, time is one of the KPIs. But finally, as another example that I was referring for the finance, we were talking with some traders, expert traders, that they need to generate the their strategy. They told me like sometimes it takes even 1 month just to prepare a strategy because it requires a lot of, sometimes I need to code, I need to investigate some data. There's a lot of crunching, there's a lot of skills that need to be done. And sometimes, talking with my partner that has those skills, now we provide this tool that you have all in one in that place. And again, we need to onboard them and how to use those set of tools. But something that takes 1 month, now again with a few minutes you got the. Another thing is that then you need to decide if that was actually a good strategy or not. But right, for me, the KPI of time clearly what we are achieving right now.
I mean, that's amazing time compression to offer across a variety of use cases. But
Yeah.
I mean, at its core, one of the theses is that, at least that I'm picking up on, is that with better data, you've got better insight and more actionability.
Totally. I mean, the only problem is an old problem, right? It's like because as I said, right, I come from project from big data, and at that moment it's like where companies were deciding to start moving into the base infrastructure to moving to the cloud. Now we are on the reverse, but that's another story, right? But because what we were planning is like, okay, how I need to collect all my company data into a data lake so I can start thinking about use cases to produce analytics on that, right? Now it's the same. You need to have good data. Otherwise, you cannot expect the model to know your data if you already do not know, right? All problems still come back. Sometimes, companies, they say, okay, let's do magic here because AI is doing magic. No, I mean, you need to set the data. And the only thing is that these stats can be compressed in the way that I can process your data. But your data is yours, and you need to have either the better and the most clean data that you have, better results. That's the old problem. But yeah, I mean, inside data, they say, oh, well, but these big models, they should know about everything. Like, yeah, except your data is yours and it's private, right? So that's still important.
I mean, what's old is new, and what's new is old again. So it's the same loop.
Yeah. Exactly. More than 20 years, but then here we are again, right? Doing the same.
On that, like, maybe forward-looking perspective, obviously AI is dramatically changing how teams work together and the action items that they can deliver within the same time period. Where do you see that AI in general going and impacting business over the next 5, 10 years? How does that shape up?
Good questions. I would say like everyone is talking about AGI, SI. So like you named the acronym, right? What's the best one to describe what's ahead? So one thing that I for sure I notice is, so as I said, I come from a computer engineer background. I do code still, and now more than ever, I would say. So I've been to this process I need to code every single line. You even had your set of projects that was okay. Every time I need to create a new project, I know I have this project that I created myself, and like looking into Stack Overflow to every single expert that is there. So going to forums everywhere, right now. So on this past year, on working from scratch onto every single project, so I noticed the speed up. So I do myself. I noticed how I was kind of managing a team of 5 people, but it was only me doing all the work. And it blew my mind in that sense. So that's why I thought actually, wow, this is gonna be super fast, and it's gonna, like have a enormous disruption into all the industries. The reality is that it takes time. It takes time to evolve. Computer science, computer engineers, software developers, they need to evolve. The only thing is that because we work with code, which means text, which means that these models, we're working with that it helps speeding up the process. But speeding, I'm always using kind of this analogy, like from going to 0 to 6, those models is going super fast. So I can be, full stack DevOps. I can do, end to end of the process. I would say that in terms of mediocre, if you don't have anything, you don't know anything, that's fantastic, because moving to the MVP world, now anyone can do that, I would say. And this is coming from idea to prototype super fast. Now, when you are moving into kind of the more hands-on, like not expert, but like into production, like into huge code bases, that's a different story. Moving ahead and thinking in several years ahead, I would say that people need to evolve, but it's not about if you get it out of the job or not. It's like, hey, I need to use those tools to actually be able to move farther. And the companies that are not using AI, those gonna get behind, not necessarily be disappear, because you can think about, because it takes time. But I do see a lot of disruptions in coming up, like newcomers, new players into the industries that are full AI. Because sometimes what I notice is people say that they're working AI as an add-on, right? Myself, I was explaining about doing these quick wins. But by doing these quick wins, it's just a step into going to the core of your company. If you not change the whole process of your company, then you're gonna be worried. I don't know, it's gonna be, not in 5 years, I don't know how many years, but there's gonna be companies, pure AI, for the core of their business, that they're gonna be disrupting each single industry. That's gonna happen, right? So this is the thing. In terms of professionally, in terms of career development, again, is kind of, you need to adopt the new skills. That's for sure. That's what we are trying to do also in Mindsight for the managers. And in terms of industries, for sure, there's going to be always one newcomer that they're going to be full AI. It's a matter of time. The only thing is that you need to be prepared for that.
I think that makes a ton of sense, Albert. And I think you're going to be looking like Nostradamus here in a few years with this perspective.
I mean, I see a lot of opportunities, right? So it may see like this, but yeah, that's a ton of opportunities of doing things new again, as we say, like the old new and the new old, right? So maybe this is what experience can bring, right? To kind of looking the things with a different perspective, but it's the same problem as usual.
Solus Partners, the podcast, at least, is blessed to have you on as a guest that also knows a little bit into the quantum computing world as well. Totally understand on our side that it's on the cutting edge, but how does quantum computing impact AI, or how do you see that fitting in kind of with the business ecosystem today?
Wow, no, I mean, this is, I like kind of these kind of mixes, and actually, it was, I would say, out of curiosity in which I got into quantum computing, and actually, it just happened that here in Barcelona, uh, and actually Europe is moving pretty well in terms of quantum computing and quantum technologies in general, and it just happened that one startup here in Barcelona, they're starting manufacturing quantum computers, right? And I'm like, hey, me as a computer engineer, I know how it works. A computer 0 1s, right? But how quantum, and like, if you mix AI and quantum, does it make sense or not? Does one gonna substitute the other thing? Just let me put something like very clear here. Is like quantum computing or quantum computers is similar as GPUs, right? In the sense that they're they're very good in resolving some specific problems. In their mainly combinatorial problems, you can explore like many possibilities at once. So for this type of problems, they're very good. So you're gonna need GPUs, you're gonna need CPUs, you're gonna need HPC centers, you're gonna need this type of compute. But for specific problems, wow, having quantum computers is gonna solve many problems, right? The thing is that you need a preparation for this algorithm to be set up to the quantum chips, and you need also the calibration system and also post-process out of the algorithms. If you can do that very fast, then you can continuously execute the whole algorithm faster. This is why it makes sense to have kind of this interrelation between AI with GPUs very close to the QPUs. Actually, they are very tied together into the hardware realm in the sense. So that this is a loop, because you need to decode the problem. You need AI and GPUs for doing that. And then you run that problem into the QPU. Then you get back and decode the problem. And it's an iterative loop. This is actually fantastic. That's why HPC centers in Europe, for instance, but all over the world, they are building quantum computers close to the HPC center. Because then you, as let's say, a scientific researcher, what you want is actually to explore your algorithm, that some pieces of your algorithm may run into a quantum computer and some others to the HPC center. And then having all tied together, that's fantastic. And there's a bright side also in terms of discoveries for the future. And I'm super excited as well in that sense. It's gonna take a while, but it's gonna come, because I see, in my eyes, how we can actually build quantum hardware. And just imagine how we have advanced in terms of the GPUs architecture and the whole new startup that came by redesigning the process in which we were processing GPUs, right? Now it's the time for also incorporating and thinking through and the new discoveries of GPUs that are going to be into the market to actually, operation and GPUs.
Interesting. I think yeah, interplay of quantum computing with AI makes a lot of sense, both just
Yeah.
logistical setup wise, but then also just the speed and efficiency and how you need to have that relay for certain problems or coding exercises. Uh, what kind of going on further onto that point of interest on the discoveries from quantum computing, and this will be a two-layered question, but how does superpositioning and the concept of it, which I'm very early in on and trying to understand and wrap my head around, to me, it sounds a little bit more like sci-fi still, specifically superpositioning. How does a concept like superpositioning enable those future discoveries, and what are some of those discoveries that you're keenly looking at or hoping to see?
No, no, yeah. And again, I'm I'm not a quantum physicist, and I don't come from a PhD background, but I also explain this. I try to explain this, and maybe some of the listeners that may think that this is wrong, but I usually say first you need to think that you can encode all the possibilities that came from let's pick a coin. There's also always this example, right? So you spin a coin, there's head and tails, and in mid-air you cannot decide if it's head or tail, right? So I would say that just imagine that you can play around having for this unit of information that you have these two possibilities at the same time, so that for again oversimplifying, but think that you can take those options as a matter of fact, so that when you decide that you need the results, and again, this is expressed into complex numbers, they call amplitudes, but they hold probabilities, right? So that you can think about algorithms that they explore these probabilities, all the possible probabilities that it has kind of this spinning in the air, right? So that when you need the response, so then you stop that and it is head or is tail, right? But kind of how you can explore the algorithms that can decide all the paths throughout your execution. This is what makes possible, because then you don't have one qubit or one coin, right? You have many of those. So the combination of all together, this is what makes possible that you can decide and you can think that you can store all these possibilities of the probabilities throughout the execution. That's when you have kind of the answer there, that answer was already encoded and with all the qubits and all the coins that you flip into the air throughout the execution. The thing now is that with the current hardware, we only can spin that coin through like very nanoseconds of time. But with the future discoveries, you can have like longer execution of time, which will help more complex algorithms in which you can explore many options, right? Typical problem, okay, the salesman's problem. So you need to encode the different possibilities, how to go to A to B, and with a faster route, right? So if you have all the different possibilities already encoded in those coins, you know that the solution is already there. It's just a matter of how to get into that one. In terms of information, you have already the encoding there. I know it's not an easy term to explain. Just thinking that you're just encoding just because you are moving into the non-deterministic computation. So coming from a deterministic world, I think it's sometimes it's challenging to think about that, because you need to play this algorithm several times so you got the most probabilistic solution. Which now moving again into the AI, it seems something that people are more familiar, right? Because those pre-trained models, they're also non-deterministic, which makes like kind of it gets blurred, blend together again, right?
Yeah.
Quantum and AI, not because of the same principles, but people are more familiar with what it means to not have a concrete solution for one shot, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. That's very succinct and I think approachable. Thank you. What of just kind of human discoveries are you guys focused on, or just on the side watching out for when it comes to quantum computing, or just the relationship between AI and quantum?
I would say that this. So I was working at Kilimanjaro, and so they had an interesting approach because they were exploring the analog quantum computing, which means that the way I describe this, it seems kind of more kind of zero ones or like the digital world. The approach was more on the analog, which means that this is, and again, it's going to take a while, but it's more approachable to discover kind of how chemistry works. So the discoveries of, like the ground state of energy, which means that all the future, evolution and inventions that is going to come from chemistry and reaction and studies of how matter interact with each other, that can also be because per se, right? If you go into the specifics, you move into, molecules and atoms, right? And this is where, chemistry works with, right? And you can simulate a quantum system. And I know, sorry, because I'm moving into kind of more technical terms, but the idea would be that if you can simulate, and actually in AI, there's a lot of simulation as well with robots, right? So this simulation is super powerful because if you can simulate a system, and in this case, a quantum system, you basically let it evolve. So you don't have to manipulate that. So you preset that, you let it evolve because you know how this is gonna, so kind of, the origins, and you just let it evolve and it finds out the solution. So you're gonna evolve artificially, right? Because you are setting up those atoms, let's say, in how the reaction is gonna come up. And again, this is gonna take many, 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 many qubits in that sense, but there's a whole path of evolution, and this is super fantastic wall of discoveries, and there's gonna be a ton of discoveries coming from quantum simulation. And wow, I mean, this is in the industry of chemistry, and then solve new cures. And again, this is going to take many years, but we are on the right path, I would say.
Well, and then the implications, I mean, going beyond even chemistry and more into the biology of human systems, the impact for
Totally.
strategy consulting or just managers in general at the C-suite, I think is going to be profound. That's fascinating perspective. You're all.
No, totally. I mean, and the only thing is that because again, there's needs a lot of discoveries to be and a lot of still research to be done. The scientific doesn't want to be super enthusiastic in terms of like the years of how this is gonna happen, when it's gonna happen. But if you think like, wow, what can happen because of that, this is actually mind blowing. Yeah.
I'm just getting excited hearing you talk about it and share perspective around it. It's really cool. Shifting gears a little bit more to the human side of things, not that that's not a human creation, but how, like, obviously you have to have a really dynamic team at Mindsight to tackle these really innovative projects. How were you as a manager able to form that team, get that buy-in, and what was the story like there?
I mean, I would say that basically what we are mixing is two things. I come from, so curiosity drives me. What I want is actually, so one of the core values of Mindset is curiosity. If you're curious, you're gonna know how to solve things, and full stop. Why? Because every single day I'm doing things that I did not do anything, in the past. And if you expect me, to explain how to do something, it's gonna be only like 20% of the task that you need to do. If you know how to solve, you like challenges, then go ahead, because then this is the place, right? So this is something that I'm always trying to gather. I mean, but it's difficult, right? With the people that I talk with and I engage. But this is one driver for me. And I don't know. I would say that it's kind of more, by talking. Sometimes, like people without experience, which is gonna be that the second lever that we operate. But if they are curious, again, because there's new SDKs, there's new libraries, there's new something that was not 1 year ago. It was not here like 3 months ago. Like documentation now, it takes only, I don't know, like 10 days, and then it's already breaking and there's another version. So you need to feel comfortable by being uncomfortable. That kind
Yeah,
of this
yeah.
is the place to be. And the other main driver is experience, which kind of, so my other partner, he comes from creating many companies. He also is a CEO of the Venture Builder. So he advises and has created many companies along the way. And kind of the tandem is kind of what makes us kind of decide what to do next, I would say, because the vision is, fantastic, but then reality, puts us into the market, into the reality. So also hiring people also that comes with experience, I think is also a good, but you need kind of a balance with that, because only with experience, it means that you have a bar that you want to keep, because you always take the decision based on that experience. And as I said, now you need to be comfortable just to say, okay, I need to understand and do the thing different. And it takes a while to do that. I mean, again, it's not easy, but this is the place that we are right now, which is exciting. But at the same time, you never know. As I said, you need to feel to be comfortable of changing every single day the way you work. But you need to also provide trust to your clients, to the products that you are providing to the customers that connect with you. This trust is about no matter what happens, I'm gonna solve and provide value to you. Kind of this is kind of the theme that we are working
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you guys are well positioned considering you've got an experienced and curious team beside you. So, um,
on.
with that in place, what do you guys see? I mean, kind of talk us through the highs and lows up to this point at Mindsight, and then where do you see Mindsight going over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so there's still, that there's been high and lows, and one being the low, starting by the low. I mean, we thought that this would be like much more easy to put a product into the market and just start selling, as I was saying. Like the reality is like, this is treated internally for companies as another innovation project, which means that, hey, I don't know if I want your product or not, but maybe I want to hear you, right? And then it's about building trust. And then it's why what we need to shift a little. We wanted to sprout a product. Now, by going with them, we are putting the products into the market sometimes as a spin-off of their company, and we help them as the technical, let's say, lever for them to put that into the market. And we are comfortable with that. So at least, so we put these three projects that I mentioned into the market. Okay, what we want is actually to double that, right? It's like, hey, next year we want at least to do that. So we want to continue that, but let's double that because at least, right? So, but we want to be ambitious, but at the same time, we notice that the speed to the market, at least here in Europe, it is what it is. We have not seen and noticed that much let's say the regulatory of AI, but it's there, right? But at least to be cautious, and that's something like, okay, this is what it is. Here we can help companies all over the world, but this is just by proximity and what we have achieved so far, because the trust is easier for proximity. Right now, with these products that we are providing to the market, what we want to experience into the following 12 months is putting these AI products, let's say, into the market. We don't sell as AI products, but this kind of the assistant that are based on AI. Now we're gonna see if they can actually grow on users and how these AI agents can actually help those products to scale up quickly. And this is I'm super excited to see and actually be part of that, because then again we're gonna put these agents as roles into an organization to just prepare that. And let's see, we always want to stretch kind of what is actually possible with technology, because we are a small team, but we want to actually use technology to help us to achieve those, because then we can replicate that into other projects. And kind of this is again what we want to accumulate experience with just recent discoveries to move into the other project.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, have you guys had much interaction to compare the approach to AI from Europe relative to the United States?
I would say at least not necessary. What we've seen is, at least we noticed that there's more projects coming up outside of Europe, right? Like more initiative being not aggressive, but more kind of jumping more into the water of testing AI, let's say, right? And here I noticed they're more cautious. Again, in Europe, it's more kind of imbalanced depending on the country. France, for instance, has a lot of startups on AI, and so I see that there's a lot of movement as well. UK as well now as part of independent. What I would say is not necessarily like first hand, but I see kind of the market that probably US is basically is moving more faster, just by the sake of the need just to test, right? But here is like, okay, let's see, kind of the decision takes longer. But this is the only thing that I would say we notice.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you guys are well posed for pretty dramatic growth, especially in the existing clients you have. And I think that those case studies will only grow as you guys further develop those relationships. So I think you're in a really exciting spot.
Yeah, we hope so, and we keep pushing. But there's many also, like players, people providing solutions. So, but we enjoy what we do. We have a lot of fun, which
Yeah.
is necessary. And yeah, that's exciting for what is gonna come.
So, well, one final question for you. What is the best way if someone is interested, has listened to the podcast or watched, to get in contact with you or your team?
Yeah, I would say that via two ways, via the website mindsetventures.ai. There's a contact form, there's a X account, or either to me personally, I am Chena. I have an X account as well. Just DM us, and then yeah, let's talk with that for any of the possibilities that AI can help you achieving your solution, because there's for sure a solution to be done with AI.
Albert, well, I really appreciate your time today. This has been a great dive into the business trends of AI, but then also just where the field's going along with quantum computing. So thank you for that.
But thank you for having me, and yeah, a pleasure to talk about the realms of quantum computing and also AI.
So, well, thank you.
Thank you.